The views and opinions expressed on this program are not those of Norfolk State University or WNSB-FM. Thank you for listening. Where would Black culture be without our music? From music from the motherland to inspirational Negro spirituals that helped us get through slavery, to jazz, R&B, and hip-hop. Music changes our lives. How has Black music affected your life? How has it changed it? Hi, I'm Benita Adams. I'm the host of Hampton Roads Voices, and today on Hampton Roads Voices, celebrating Black music right after this.
It's Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not those of Norfolk State University or WNSB-FM. Thank you for listening. If you're just joining us, I'm Benita Adams, your host of Hampton Roads Voices, and today we're talking about celebrating Black music by way of looking at and appreciating Black Music Month. You're going to be so excited with all the guests that we have today, but let's first give you the phone numbers so that you can call in at 757-823-9110. We want to hear from you because, again, we want to hear your voices here in Hampton Roads and other places as well. So call in 757-823-9110. So what is your favorite era of music? We're going to be playing music from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. So let us know what your favorite music is and what songs or artists really bring back those particular memories of a particular time in your life, or have your musical tastes change over the years. Sometimes as we get older, our tastes change. And so make sure you call in 757-823-9110. We're celebrating Black music and looking at Black Music Month. So our first guest who's on the line with us today, we have Mr. David Linton. He's the chairman of Living Legends Foundation, music marketing consultant also, and formerly with Arista Records as the VP of Black Music Promotions, and also a senior VP of Capitol Records. And that is a mouthful, but you're very impressive, Mr. Linton. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you, Benita. Thank you and the staff at WNSB for having this and discussing something that's obviously very dear to me, Black music.
Absolutely. And so it was so interesting, David, when I was getting ready to come over to the studio today, I said I want to play something that's going to kind of get me in the mood. So there were two songs. One was an album, of course, and one was a song. But I was playing The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. Do you remember that one, of course? The Revolution Will Not Be Televised.
Oh, yes. I definitely.
And I was playing that today. I know some of our listeners, you know the song I'm talking about, Gil Scott-Heron, and it was wonderful. And then I started playing all kinds of Stevie Wonder songs. And that's when I asked our listeners, are there particular artists or songs that put you in the mind or the framework of a time in your life? So what is the current state of affairs in terms of Black music? What are some of the trends out there?
Well, Black music, I always say music is nothing but is emotions and memories. So as you alluded to, you heard a song and it took you back to a place. You know, the current state of Black music is a multi-pronged answer to that. The current state of Black music from a commercial standpoint, it's done what it's always done. It's at a very good place. It has always been really the backbone of the music industry. And the music industry just went through its current doldrums and trying to figure out how to compete and stay viable in the new tech age and streaming and all that. There's Black music in all of its forms that has really given the music industry a resurgence. So when I say Black music, obviously we know about R&B, hip-hop. So you have to encounter jazz, gospel. It's always all those different formats and all those different forms have always been there. And the current state of Black music, it's probably never been in a better state from a commercial standpoint in the New World Order. We can always have the debate about creativity and errors. Some of my colleagues, people who don't like rap, say, well, the music that is when I grew up, it's not the same. But I've never been one to say that, having worked with Quincy Jones. He once said something that was really profound when we talked about when we were working on the Block album, and he talked about the being able to go from bebop to hip-hop and all the things that people have. So being that music is personal, we could debate all day long about the creativity standpoint, but the state of black music is really in a great space right now.
I love that you say that. So when we're looking at, of course, Black Music Month, it really makes us think about that every genre of music has been touched and influenced by African Americans. And so that's why in 1979, of course, make sure our listeners are hearing this part, President Jimmy Carter proclaimed the month of June as Black Music Month. And then 2009 came around and President Barack Obama issued a proclamation and he called it African American Music Appreciation Month. And he said that there should be more activities and programs to raise awareness and foster appreciation of music, which is composed, arranged, and performed by African Americans. And yet even our current President Donald Trump said June 1 of this year that he wanted to, and he issued a proclamation and said our nation is indebted to all African American artists whose music fills our airways and homes. Our music lifts our spirits and compels us to think, dance, and sing. So the whole background, foundation of black music, and we're going to be listening to some of that music from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. And again, I want you to call in 757-823-9110. We're celebrating black music. And what are your favorite eras of music? Any particular songs? Is music as good as it used to be or as you remember it being? And so we're going to look at that, and also black music as a vehicle for social change. And so we're going to look at those things. 757-823-9110 is the number to call in because we're talking about black music. And so, David, I like that you said that black music now, with the new age of technological age, the new age of technology, that we're in a very good state. Has the new technology, streaming and being able to put things out there on your own, has it made it more a level playing field? Is that why you're saying that it's in a really good state, or are there other reasons that it is?
Well, I say that, one thing about from a commercial standpoint, black music has continued to sell. It's almost recession-proof, inflation-proof. The issue that the industry went through, the industry just had to adjust to the technology. Our industry was really very resistant to the technology. When the guys from NASCAR came around, we kind of just took a deaf ear to it and kept doing what we were doing because we were having a boom of our own. Mm-hmm. But once that time had changed, and what was going on at that particular time was that people were replacing their albums with CDs. Mm-hmm. So we were selling catalogs. So money was just flowing in. Mm-hmm. So there was no need to really watch trends. But then when we hit that, I guess when everything leveled off, and then people started file sharing and those kind of things, we had to go back in, because the key thing with music industry, there was a time when an artist had to go to a record company for everything. Mm-hmm. We funded them, we helped them with the creative part. We definitely did the promotion and marketing, and we had the distribution centers. So what the technology has done is it's leveled the playing field in that artists don't really necessarily need a label in the traditional sense. They can make everybody has a computer. I won't give anybody a plug by calling the name. But they can make beats, make a song, create a song, press it up, digitally distribute it through any of the different platforms. And so, that was a big chunk. So it made the industry have to redesign itself, sold off its distribution points. And so the playing field became more from a creative standpoint, but there's still a need for labels. And so the labels then said, okay, let's become partners with the artist. So they came up with the 360 degree where, and I don't want to get too technical, where the artist became a partner with the label.
I love that thought. Hold that thought for just a moment. We have a caller on the line. Caller, what is your name and where are you calling from, please?
I'm calling from Portsmouth.
Please, can you turn the radio down just a little bit, please? And again, tell me your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Giovanni Alexander. I'm calling from Portsmouth.
Okay, and what is your question or comment, please?
My question is about the spirituality of music in reference to the drum.
Mm-hmm.
And how it's evolved to now with the music that we listen to now and sort of like hip-hop. And my question is also about samples, how we used to use samples in music and how, there's an infringement on samples now and it's affecting the music that comes out because we don't have great samples from those classic albums from the past,
Right. Okay, let me put that to David. David, did you hear both parts of his question?
I heard part of it. Could you repeat it?
Giovanni, the first part you were talking about, did you say spirituality in terms of music?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, the drum. I come from a culture where the drum is very symbolic in music and African culture. It moves us in a way that I don't know how music moves other cultures, but it moves us. A legendary promoter in this area, Henderson Vaughn, Captain 85, once showed me how he could ask the DJ to turn up or turn down the RPMs on certain songs, and it would affect the crowd. So I was just talking about how spiritual the music is.
David,
well, definitely from the drum. Definitely, it's in our ancestral DNA. It is the foundation. That's why our music is the beat and the bass for black music has always been that. It goes back to the drum, and it really is a part of that, and it definitely is that. That's what separates us. If you listen to black music, it's all about the bass and the beat and the drum. And you go to other cultures, it's more strings, snares, and some other elements. So, yeah, it's always been there. And then I heard you say something about the sampling of music.
Yes, sir.
The thing about sampling is probably, I've been in the business for 30-plus years. I used to be a DJ. Matter of fact, I used to be on the radio in that area.
Okay.
But the sampling is really, to me, is a result of a couple of things. One, we don't have the people who are creating music today are not creating original music. And that's the result of the loss of the arts in the schools. They're not learning about music appreciation as in previous generations. When programs are cut in schools, music is one of those things that get cut.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
And so from an artistic and a creative standpoint, from the first time that there was a sample from Sugar Hill with Good Times by Chic up to now, sampling has always been a thing that we've had to deal with from the creativity standpoint. Obviously, we've resolved that because now when people get sampled, they get paid. And so it's not as much of an issue. But when it first started, people weren't getting paid. And it was creating a little disharmony, to say the least, between the creators and those who were sampling the music. I remember when Biz Markie, when I was working at Warner Brothers, sampled a song and got sued. And that was the big turning point because he sampled a white artist. When they were sampling black artists, nobody cared.
Mm-hmm.
But when he sampled a white artist, we went to court.
That's a whole nother show right there. Okay.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show, right. And so I'm just saying, so sampling definitely plays a role because, again, it goes back to the creativity of the musicians and the musicianship that was, a part of our DNA and our creativity up until about the 80s.
I love that. Thank you, Giovanni, so much for calling.
Hey, can I ask for a song?
Well, what I would ask you to do is go ahead and call back in and give that information to our caller, to the one who is taking the phone calls, and we can see what we can do.
All right, it's EPMD, just like music.
Okay. Thank you, Giovanni, so much for listening. Again, what are your musical tastes? How has music changed? How has it changed your life? We're talking about Black Music Month, and we're celebrating Black music. Call in 757-823-9110, 757-823-9110. How have your musical tastes changed over the years? Do you think music is what it used to be, and what era is your favorite music? Make sure you keep it locked here. Hampton Roads Voices, Hot 91.
Is Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91.
Welcome back, everybody, to Hampton Roads Voices. I'm Benita Adams, your host. I'll give you the phone numbers right off the bat because I know you want to call in at 757-823-9110. We're celebrating Black music today, and I hope you're enjoying the music that our program director has put together. We're going from all eras and phases of music. You heard the gospel. We're going to be playing hip hop, playing jazz, all kinds of music, because that is a part of the soul of the music of Black people. So celebrating Black music today and Black Music Month. And on the line we have as our guest, Mr. David Linton. He's the chairman of Living Legends Foundations, also a music marketing consultant. He formerly was with Arista Records as the VP of Black Music Promotions and the senior vice president of Capitol Records. Also, he's written for Huffington Post and Billboard. Thank you again, David, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So we've given some background on Music Month, and we've looked at some aspects, but I want to look at also, because your background is as a Black music executive. Discuss a little bit for us, David, how the Black music executive's ability to affect change in the music industry with the artists, what's being put out there, even in radio then and now. And then, do Blacks still have control over Black music? Wow,
that's if I was a batter and you were the pitcher, you hit one in the strike zone. The Black music executives. Let's talk about then, and then I'll talk about now. Black music executives. When I first joined it, when I left radio and went into the music industry around 1980, but it started prior to that, the music industry did a study to find out how they could get better at promoting and marketing Black music. Mm-hmm. And so they decided that they needed to have more Blacks in positions of power. And this actually started in the mid-'70s. Clive Davis, who I used to work for, who's the president of Arista Records, commissioned a study while he was at CBS called the Harvard Report, as we refer to, and it just showed that in order for major companies to get into the Black music consumer, they needed Black people controlling Black music, and so it created a rash of hirings of Black music executives. We developed Black music divisions. In the Black music division, that person had control of hiring people, signing artists, working with the artist and management to say, this is a song that will be released, this song won't be released. And so Blacks had full control and autonomy. When I was senior vice president at Capitol Records, I was in control of artists that had a very strong word in what artists were signed, and definitely a word of which songs were released. And by doing so, we created $1 billion industry within inside $1 billion industry, if you can imagine that. Mm. And it was, I always tell this story because it's a little known story. One of the greatest artists of our time that I had the opportunity to work with, Whitney Houston, was not discovered by Clive Davis. He eventually signed her, but it was a black executive who found her and took him to see her because we knew where the talent was. And when the industry did the fall in the wall, and they understood hip hop, and they thought now that they could do this music, they thought that they studied us. And then they thought they could do it without us. And so we still have Black executives, but they don't have the same power. to make the decisions about what's released, who's signed, as they once did. And of course, the industry's gotten smaller. So, do blacks have do we have the ability to affect the change more so then than we do now? And that's why when a record that was released by an artist or came out, and I thought it was going to be offensive to the consumer, or that radio wouldn't play it, or even if radio would play it, it's not the message we wanted for our kids to have, we could stop that song from being released.
But can you do that now? Is that was in the past?
Well, now you've got someone else who doesn't look like us controlling what goes out. And, of course, radio, on the other hand, is always had the power to play what they wanted to, yay or nay. So, as the times have changed, hip hop has now become the more dominant format, which we saw it. I mean, I got kicked off the radio for playing the long version of Sugar Hill Gang when the rap first came out. So I represent the first generation of hip hop. But now the black executives don't have the same leverage. We now only have maybe 3 or 4 black executives who can green light and stop something. We all know L.A. Reid, who started LaFace. You have Sylvia Rhone, who's the president of Epic Records. John Platt, who's the chairman of Warner Chappell Worldwide Publishing In. And that's pretty much it. And Ethiopia Hampton, who's the president of Motown Records. Outside of that, there's really no people who can really kind of greenlight and stop things. At major labels, of course, you still have your entrepreneurs, and all those black labels were shuttered. There's no more LaFace. There's really no more Bad Boy. There's no more So Def as a label. The only one who's really standing, because they were smart businessmen, believe it or not, is Cash Money.
Wow. So see, that's an issue that's very important. But let me throw out our number again, 757-823-9110. We're here talking about Black Music Month and celebrating black music. Are you an artist or a musician out in the industry? Give us a call at 757-823-9110. Are you able to put your own material out there? Are you interested in finding out how the business actually works? It looks one way on the outside, but being in the business. So again, are you a musician? Do you think that black music still is a vehicle for change? And tell us some music or artists that have changed you over the years. Again, this is Hampton Roads Voices, and we're talking about Black Music Month, celebrating black music. 757-823-9110. So, David, so you're saying there's just a handful of black labels, is that correct? Black labels left? If so,
there are major labels, and there's only a handful of black labels. And I don't want to paint the wrong picture.
Okay.
We still have blacks employed at the labels.
Okay.
But we don't have people we don't have as many people in. At one time, there was at least 20 black executives that were running different labels or different entities who had, as I like to say, the power of the pen. And now we're down to about 3 or 4.
So when you were talking about how this has evolved, you said that they were bringing in people or remaining with people who did not look like us, thinking that they could do it better or as well as we could or we were doing. So should I say that yes or no? Could they do it as well, or no, they couldn't do it as well, and this is a result of that?
Well, yes, because again, with hip hop the music industry is divided by formats. You're either in R&B, you're either in jazz, you're either in pop or top 40 rock, and so in those different little areas, you have experts who work in those genres. Hip hop was one of the music forms that kind of brought everybody together, if you will. You got the kid when Eminem sold 1 million copies, record companies started doing some research and saying, who's buying these records?
Right.
And so they found out that all those sales wasn't coming from the inner city as they thought. They were coming from the suburbs.
They were coming from the suburbs, right.
But they forgot we lived in the suburbs, too. And so they felt that they could do it. And their kids was playing hip-hop. Now their kids, it's a side effect of integration. It's not a bad thing. But kids going to school with each other, people knowing each other, kumbaya, having a kumbaya moment, if you will. So when your kids come home, and my coworkers, when his kids were coming home, and they were playing Biggie, and our kids was playing Biggie. It was like, okay, let's do a little research here. They were playing Salt and Pepper, so their kids got into hip hop, and so they studied, as they often do, and they thought, okay, we got this. And hip hop really does not demand the same kind of marketing and the other things that we have to do inside of a label.
Absolutely.
As we do. We don't have to do the same thing for a hip hop artist that we had to do for a Tony Braxton or Frankie Beverly and Mays.
David, we have a caller. Let me just jump in. We have a caller on the line. Caller, what is your name and where are you calling from, please?
Okay, we got Markel from Hampton, Virginia.
Okay, Markel, what is your question or comment?
My comment, I was just listening. Basically, I want to say that I know my brother who talked before me was talking about black businesses who are successful. I just feel like there are more out there in the music industry other than Cash Money. I feel like you have Rock Nation, who has artists like J. Cole under him, who has Dreamville, who also has more artists under him. So I feel like we have developing music in the community. It's harder to find it when you have distracting music.
David, what do you think about what Markel is saying?
Yeah, Markel, you are absolutely right. There are the small production deals because everybody hits a label and they get a production deal and they think they have a label and they really don't. There's a difference. And Rock Nation is definitely one. One of my good friends just went there as president. But what I'm talking about that has labels who have been able to stand time over a long period of time, and all those labels, most of those labels still have some kind of a connection to a major.
Right.
And so that's what I was talking about. You have the sub-labels, and all those other sub-labels that we had in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and up to 2000s. Most of them are gone. And like I said, Cash Money, because of the kind of deal that they did, they were standalone. They didn't take the label's money the same way the other people did. Puffy, to his credit, even though he got the money to start it, he bought his rights back. So just from a business standpoint, so I didn't want, and I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't get your name, Markel?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Markel.
Yeah, that we didn't give the wrong impression, but there is not the same kind of autonomy at the major label. See, when at their time there was a major label when, say, when JD wanted to do a deal, there was a black guy who could write him a check for a couple of $1 million to set it up. Sylvia Rome could write $1 million to get Missy Elliott started. We don't have those people in those places, and that's what I was talking about, because you still have people working, but people who have the power of the pen that can say yay or nay, not as many.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I feel like not only in the music industry, but in a lot of industries, there are people who are not as familiar with us, who are more in charge, who have more power over us, and I feel like that's part of wealth, being power. So we just need to empower ourselves and support black businesses.
Absolutely. Markel, thank you so much for your call.
And Markel, just to your point, there's a simple solution to that. But people don't, for some reason they don't get it, is that content is king. And if you're creating the content, you really are in control.
Right.
And so if the artists would demand more, and I will give it to hip hop artists. Hip hop artists they are more about being independent and self-sufficient than any any group of artists that I've had to deal with, and I've dealt with artists who've been around from the 70s, the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, and their mindset is totally different. And I can really, they have more of an entrepreneurial mindset.
Right.
And that's such an important point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, when you see those groups when you look at the TV show Unsung and you see those stories, that kind of brings it all home. So, yeah.
Okay, Markel, thank you so much for your call. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is Hampton Roads Voices. We're talking about Black Music Month. We're celebrating Black music from the early years all the way through today. And our guest on the line is Mr. David Hampton, chairman of Living Legends Foundations. Call in with your questions, your comments. Are you a musician? Do you have that entrepreneurial spirit that David talked about? Is there music out there that's changed your life? And what era of music is your favorite that has made a difference for you? Call in 757-823-9110. Hampton Roads Voices, 757-823-9110. This is Hot 91.
Is Hampton Roads Voices Hot 91.
Welcome, everybody, back to Hampton Roads Voices. I'm Benita Adams, your host, and we're talking about Black Music Month. We have several guests, one on the line and a couple of others here. But again, we want to hear from you. This is Hampton Roads Voices. We want to hear what you have to say at 757-823-9110. 757-823-9110. We're talking about celebrating Black music. If you're an artist in the area or even out of the area, or maybe you're a musician, you're in the record industry, give us a call and let us know how it is from your perspective. Do you think music is as good as it used to be? Sometimes people say, oh, no, back in the day it was really good. Now it's not. But give us your perspective on that. And is Black music still a vehicle for social change? If you are anyone of a certain age, you know how music impacted our community. So give us a call at 757-823-9110. We're going to continue with our guest on the line, Mr. David Linton. He's the chairman of Living Legends Foundations, also a music marketing consultant. He is a music marketing consultant and formerly with Arista Records as the VP of Black Music Promotions and also the Senior Vice President of Capitol Records. David, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Also, we have an in-studio guest. We have Levi Little. He's a member of Black Street, also singer, songwriter, and producer. Levi, thank you for being here in the studio.
Likewise. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. So we've been talking about Black Music Month. We've been talking about all kinds of aspects of Black music. But we do want to talk about, we were saying that in terms of Black music, if it's in a crisis state or not in a crisis state. And David, right before the break, you were talking about how it's a good time for Black music. And you were letting us know in terms of technology earlier that we're somewhat on an even playing field. Go ahead and talk about that. So Black music is not in a crisis, right? Aren't we in a good state? Is that what you were saying?
Well, we're in a good state, and we're in a good state because of, from a commercial standpoint, there's so much good music out there. Mm-hmm. The issue is for the outlets, and I think the real crisis facing Black music, if there would be one, is how do we regain control of it, and of Black culture and Black radio. Mm-hmm. I mean, because the music is there. There's so many talented artists out there, but they don't have, and there are a lot of ways to get the music out, but not as in a way that always translates to dollars and cents. Yeah. And so, we have to be, it's our culture. We have to take care of it and protect it. And that's the thing that we have to get a hand of. I think I heard someone there, Levi,
yes,
from Black Street.
Absolutely. I think what you're saying is right on point in terms of that. I mean, streaming hasn't really quite gotten there yet, but I think in terms of distribution and things like that, we're in a great time because, I mean, think about it. You can create a product at home and upload it as soon as you finish it. You know, back in the day, we had to actually record the record, of course, you got to do all the stuff, mix it and stuff like that. But the manufacturing side, was crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because you had to go manufacture, then you got to get distributed. It had to be packaged and all that stuff. Now it's just digital. You can actually make a record, mix it, and upload it to the world. That's incredible. That's a great platform. But now the only thing I see wrong with it is, like you were saying, but a lot of these outlets, like we got the internet, is a great thing. But at the same time, it's like a gift and a curse, because it also created a platform for everybody, but it also created a platform for crazy stuff too. You know what I mean? So it's like a weird balance, And I think once you get a niche on how to use the platform, like if you take, for instance, the group, the Foo Fighters, they did this thing called the Garage Tour. To me, it was so incredible because it was like a direct-to-consumer thing, you know what I mean, where they actually was really in touch with their fan base, and I think that to me, that works for us. And again, we got history, having some hits in back in the day and stuff like that, so we got a fan base. But I see a lot of new guys using the whole form of touching their fans and being more close and intimate with it.
Now, do the newer artists understand this process? Levi, I'm going to continue with you. Do they understand the technology at their fingertips and this world of possibility that you talked about?
I think the youth really got it down packed in terms of getting the music, on the internet and stuff like that. But I don't think they understand how to really translate it into dollars, But it's getting close.
Now, David, is that where the black executive or the executives from the record labels come in, knowing how to translate it, as Levi said, into dollars?
Yes, that's exactly it. What I work with a lot of independent artists now after my years, because it's how do you can make the record, but how do you put that marketing plan together? How do you?
Absolutely.
There's so many different players that go into. The first thing I ask an artist, what's your team look like?
Right.
We made the music, but they don't know that inside the label there was a marketing person, there was a product manager, there was a publicity department.
Yep.
There was all these different areas that had to come together to really put the plan together to execute. I know some of Blackstreet's history, especially during their days with Interscope. We had many battles on the charts for number one.
Yep.
We won a few, we lost a few, but I love big fan of theirs.
Yeah.
I've known Teddy from the very beginning of his career. And when you guys were on Scope and MCA, but that's what it takes to have in that team. So, but again, like I said, the artists, they are in control.
Absolutely.
And if I can just do a sidestep, it's like even with the art athletes, there's a lot of stuff going on. They're the content. They got the talent. They really can call the shots.
Absolutely.
They don't realize it. Artists can call the shots. I wish every artist would have done what Stevie Wonder did. Stevie Wonder back in the 70s produced an album, refused to release it until Berry Gordy gave him the creative control of that album. That first, and then that's what we got.
I think Marvin did that too. Yeah, that was incredible. I think Marvin Gaye did that too with
and then Marvin Gaye did it too.
He did.
But
Absolutely.
again, and then Stevie did something that even smarter. He went and bought a radio station.
Yeah.
In the number 2 market. So
James Brown.
when you have control, James Brown before that.
Yeah.
So when you know that you have this control and it's our culture, if we could really harness that energy and bring all of that intellect that we have together.
And that's where the internet is so great, because back in the day we still had to go through the politics of getting stuff on the radio and stuff like that. But now, new music can really just reach. You can just at a fingertip, you can do the music and just hit the world with it. I think that's incredible. That technology to me is so incredible, man. I look at friends of mine like Tech9. He's a good friend of mine. And this guy sold 250,000 CDs on his own, just from touching his fans from the internet, and doing a great live show. But it's funny how a lot of the stuff you're talking about is the stuff, those models that was built back then with Barry Gordy and everybody, it still works. It's just got to be transformed into more of a this age. But that stuff is tried and proven, and it still works. Like, to me, I hate to see people not use like street teams and stuff like that. It's still, that stuff is still effective, very effective. You know.
Yeah. I mean, hip hop really redesigned it. I mean, that's because they took the culture and they showed when a guy was selling 12 inches out of the back of his car, the industry was like turning up their nose, and then when they found out he sold how many?
Yeah.
then they want.
We saw that with Hammer, you know.
That's right. I need to go get me a car and stuff. Right.
And then they came in and said, let's again, what I talked about earlier. We do something. Then they bring us in. They want to learn it. Oh, how did you do that? And then next thing you know, I remember when I used to have to fight for a street team, and then when they saw they were effective, then I had a budget of $15,000-$20,000 just for my street team.
Yep.
See, when it works, it works. Again, if you're just joining us, this is Hot 91. This is Hampton Roads Voices, 757-823-9110. We're talking about celebrating Black music during Black Music Month. Our guests right now are Mr. David Linton of Living Legends Foundations and a marketing consultant. He's also been with Arista Records as the VP of Black Music Promotions and the Senior VP of Capitol Records. Also, we have in the studio Levi Little, member of Blackstreet, singer, songwriter, and producer. You call in with your questions and your comments. Are you an artist out there? Has music made a difference in your life? What questions do you have about the industry? Are you trying to get your feet wet? We're talking about all kinds of things, the technology that's available for you. 757-823-9110. It's Hot 91.
It's Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91.
Everybody, this is Benita Adams, and this is Hampton Roads Voices, where people speak life into their communities. We're having a wonderful discussion today because we're celebrating Black music for Black Music Month, and we have several guests with us today. First of all, Mr. David Linton. He's the chairman of Living Legends Foundations. He's also a music marketing consultant, and he formerly was with Arista Records as the VP of Black Music Promotions and the senior vice president of Capitol Records. David, thank you for being with us today. David, are you there?
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Also in the studio, we have Levi Little. He's a member of Blackstreet. He's a singer, songwriter, and producer. Levi, thank you for being in the studio today.
Thank you for having me. I want to say, if I can, I want to give a big shout out to Mr. Joe Stonestreet. He passed 2 days ago. I don't know if you know. So I want to kind of let people know that.
Thank you.
One of the original members of Blackstreet, Mr. Joe Stonestreet, passed.
Our condolences to his family.
Yes.
Thank you for reminding us of that, because we're talking about the whole history of music, of Black music, and so forth. Also, we have two other guests on the line. We have Fats Kirkman, artist executive of Soul Trust Records. Fats, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And his wife, Novocaine, also artist executive, Soul Trust Records. Novocaine, thanks so much.
Thank you.
So we've been talking about just the availability, really, of because of the technology with so many new artists out there that it's almost making music on a level playing field. But as we're going back and we're just looking at the history of music and how so many genres of music are intertwined and so forth, we really need to talk about the purpose of it. And I'll start with you, David, and want to know, do you think that Black music still has a greater purpose now for social change as it did at one time?
I definitely do. And I think music has always been, we talked earlier about the caller talking about the drum, talking about from our African ancestry. Music has always been, the drum was the way we communicated in our native land to let people know what was going on. And music through the 60s and the 70s was very much a part of the civil rights movement. People like Curtis Mayfield, Norman Whitfield with the Temptations. There was a lot of social music, and of course it was Stevie Wonder who got us the Dr. King holiday,
right?
And memorialized it with the song "Happy Birthday." And so, yes, I think today there's more. We need it now more than ever. We need the artists to be socially conscious and create that kind of music and use their platform because people listen to music. I've had the opportunity to live on both coasts, New York, where I'm originally from, and in Hollywood. And it's funny, you can be in Hollywood, you can be anywhere, and you could be with a movie star and walk into a restaurant and everybody's cool. But a recording artist comes in and the place goes crazy. You know, so I think musicians and singers and artists have a very special role, and I'd like to see them become more socially active in their music and in other ways.
Levi, what do you think about that? Social change and the impact that black music has.
Oh, yes. As well as the positive, it also has a negative side. Mm-hmm. Like, no disrespect to some of the trap music that's going on. I think when I listen to it and I see what, some of the young guys are talking about, and it's all sounding the same, like the same topics. Mm-hmm. And then when you talk about the school-to-prison pipeline and all that stuff, and how this music plays a role in that stuff, too. You know what I mean? And, and you see it plays a role in protesting and stuff like that. So all around, it's definitely a very, very important thing, and it's happening now. But I think we got to get a little more deeper and start listening to what we're saying, because the power of the tongue is a serious thing,
Well, Fats and Novocaine, how are you using your music, Soul Trust Records? How are you doing that in terms of affecting change in our communities?
Having a core responsibility and using morality as a gauge in making our music. We've been in the community, not just doing music, but we've been in the community in front of children, so we understand the effect that music has on our children. And so we here at Soul Trust Records are making a serious, conscious effort to change the vibration and tone of music, kind of back a little bit, or actually I'll take that back to what we are getting ready to get into. But we need to recycle, to me, as a reflection of what we were doing with music in the past.
Absolutely.
Novocaine, what do you think?
Well, I mean, as far as the ability of music to affect change, I think we definitely understand, especially as black people, the fact that I think nothing really moves us like music. And you can talk to someone, until they're blue in the face, but if you put it in a lyric or if you put it in a song, it just resonates. A lot of people in recent times, people of all races have seen the effect of hip-hop from the outside on children and on people's ability to learn, and just repetition and rhyme and stuff, and how it affects everyone. So it's a very powerful tool, and the reason I think children respond to, I guess, nursery rhymes and things like that is the rhythm and the rhyme of things. So it's important, with hip-hop being the voice of the people, but more specifically the youth, or at least traditionally, that we, like Levi said, grab a hold of that content and make sure we don't underestimate the power that it has over someone when they're just hearing a song that's repetitious over and over. If it was a positive song, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, it would really, really resonate,
Absolutely. It's our culture. It's our culture. And no disrespect, but a lot of people been eating off our culture. That's right. Not a part of our culture. You know what I'm saying?
Culture vultures.
There it is. That's the word. You know what I'm saying? and it's kind of like, the thing about the internet I love is that, we can see it and we can kind of get a handle on it, because we can out those people. We can say, hey, we know what you're doing. And we can show people, hey, that's our stuff. You guys are eating off of it and not telling us. They creating these beefs, and these guys are eating off of the beef, and they don't have nothing to do with our culture.
That's right.
But Levi, how do we practically do that, though?
Well, like I said, I think like a lot of like what we're doing right now, we're on the radio and we're talking about it and sending a message to cats to understand that, it's not all about turn up. It's a responsibility with this music. When you got to understand. I heard a guy tell me, well, I'm not a role model, man. I'll just do this now. I said, let me explain something to you. I said, the minute you went public, you're a role model, whether you like it or not. Somebody's going to see you, whether it's good or bad. They're going to see you and say, hey, I like that negative guy. Oh, I like that good guy. You know what I'm saying? So that's a responsibility that you have. I think we guys as older guys, we're here for counsel. These younger guys are for that. They're the soldiers. You know, we
Right.
got to counsel these guys. So every chance I get on. You know, I don't want them to feel like. I think expression is a heavy thing. You know, so people should express themselves, but they should also know that there's a responsibility that comes with that expression.
Novocaine, right? I was going to say, Novocaine, go ahead and jump in. And then David.
We record a lot of people who are younger than us. I'm almost 40. Fats is about 44. So we've been doing it for a good 25 years, you know, and really, really, you know, doing it, rhyming, you know, and are well respected for it.
No doubt.
I record a lot of younger people, and you know, sometimes their music will dip off into that place where I'm like, you know, but I'll talk to them again till I'm blue in the face. But when I let them hear my music and when I let them hear the way that I rhyme, because we come from the 90s where you really, really had to know how to rhyme.
No question, lyrics.
So for them, when they heard me rhyme, all that other stuff I was saying, they felt me more because I had their respect. They didn't really realize the rhymes was going to be that lethal, I guess, or not lethal, but, you know, like skilled or whatever. So when they heard us rhyme, once we had their respect and we didn't sound so much like people just trying to tell them, hey, you guys, you know, that music's negative or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Because, of course, they're going to kind of blow that off, you know. But if you can show them that you're not just kind of preaching at them and you meet them on their level and show them that, well, I'm also at a master level that you might want to attain and make it look cool to them, then they don't, you know, they don't run off so fast when you start talking like that.
Absolutely. Well, I try to tell guys, like, I just came back from China, right, and Indonesia. So I'm out there, right, and they don't listen to certain stuff. They listen to real lyrics. It's funny. They're still into the 90s. Real lyrics and MCs and stuff like that. Like, you know, the whole culture thing. You know, they're really into it. London, they're into that too. And, you know, there's a few guys who are getting crossed there. And I understand that the music got to push past the old, you know, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But the fundamentals kind of the same. You know what I mean?
Well, let's bring in another guest that we have here. Actually, he's a DJ here at Hot 91. Scandalous. I know a lot of you listen to his program. He was the hip-hop winner of BET 106 in Park Wild Out Wednesday. He's an artist and producer. Scandalous.
Hey.
So jump on into the conversation now. Tell us what you're thinking in terms of what we're talking about social responsibility and the impact that music, black music, hip-hop has on our community.
Yes, indeed. Well, first and foremost, my good friend Levi Little, the whole Black Street are like uncles to me. I grew up around these guys in Future Records, the recording studio in Virginia Beach, when I was a teenager. And Levi always preached to me about having substance in your music and not just a good beat. And I think nowadays that's what we have. We only have a good beat, and the lyrics are so negative. And these artists portray these lifestyles so well that the listener believes them, and in turn they try to live the same lifestyle, whether it's doing the drugs, the pills, the whatever. So, yeah.
It just kind of bothers me when I go to a different country and they look at that as the representation of us as a people. I don't like that. That's what I'm saying to these kids. I said, listen, you got to understand what this music thing is $1 billion business.
Yes.
And hip hop is $1 billion industry. And I'm telling you, everybody is eating off of this. And they're looking at what we're doing and what we're saying, and they're taking that to heart. I mean, I'm in places, I'm in Japan, and these people are wearing shirts saying black owned. There's not a black face wearing it. This is black owned. I'm like, what is that?
David, go
Dave,
ahead.
you know what I'm saying, Dave?
Dave, go ahead.
Levi, you're right, and I'm going to say two things I want to say real quickly. I remember back, because I'm the old man on the show. Okay? I'm the real OG.
You the real OG, baby.
I remember when at a music convention when Minister Farrakhan got all of the heads of the music labels together and sat us down, and he told us that we had a responsibility to our communities and to our kids. He said, you guys have a responsibility. He said, because the music that you guys put out is going to feed the minds of our babies.
Absolutely.
And we took that to heart. That's why when I said earlier in the show about when we had the power to greenlight records and projects, and there were certain records that just wasn't coming out. Now, if artists put it out on the underground on the street, that's okay. But we had ways that we could checks and balances.
Yep.
We could say that's not going to happen. You got to go back in the studio and do whatever. But music is And black music is the universal language. And what Levi said, all those countries that he went to. And you know what? Really quietly, no one will say this, but I'm going to say it. It might seem crazy. But if it wasn't for hip-hop and Dennis Rodman, we wouldn't be talking to North Korea.
Absolutely.
Because what they don't understand is that the young kid, he's a hip-hop kid. It's a different kind of mindset.
Different kind.
So I'm just saying that music, we have a way, we are penetrating places. And so, like you said, the images, and I'm really glad to hear with Novocaine and her husband saying what kind of
what's up, Novi?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
What's up, yo?
That they're making, because I speak to kids all the time. I'm speaking to artists, and I consult artists, and when I speak to them and help them understand the importance of what they're saying and the power that they have, it's like they start scratching their head. So we got to embrace them, and I'm glad that they're doing that. And
yes.
I'm glad, I know Levi dropped that science.
Trust me, I'm always on top of them. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm always on top of them. The one thing I try to tell guys is this, too. Like, there's a lot of kids, the technology is a good thing, but some of them are relying too much on technology, meaning they don't know how to play instruments. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing I know how to do. I can play guitar, bass, keyboards, drums. I don't need the computer to create a soulful sound or a soulful feeling. And I think it's funny, but that thing is kind of taken away from stuff, too, the fact that a lot of kids don't. Because I had a couple of kids, I got a studio down here, and had a couple of guys come down. You always get the young guys. You know how it is. They want to challenge you. I can do these beats. I said, okay, well, let me get your machine. Now I'll do the beats. Like, what is that?
It's like, wait.
They said, are you mixing with no, I don't even have you don't got a monitor. How you mixing with no monitor? I said, it's called using your ear. Know how to use blah, blah, blah. Now I'm going to get on your technology and beat you with your own technology. I said, see, this is why you got to go. I tell guys is that you can't go into the future without checking out the past, bruh.
I agree. Let me stop you right there for just a second, Levi. Yeah. We're going to go to a break in a minute, but I, again, want to invite our listeners at 757-823-9110, 757-823-9110. We're talking about black music and all the things that go along with that. Are you a musician in the area? Do you want to talk to some of the industry people that are here? Give us your ideas and thoughts, some music that affects you. We're talking about social change. Celebrating black music on Hot 91.
It's Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Benita Adams, and this is Hampton Roads Voices, and where people are speaking life into their communities. We're celebrating black music today. We are looking at Black Music Month, and we're talking about the responsibilities of black music, the changes that black music can make in a community, in our community. We have as our guest Mr. David Linton. He's the chairman of Living Legends Foundation. Also, we have Fats Kirkman, artist executive from Soul Trust Records. His wife, Novocaine, artist executive, also Soul Trust Records. Levi Little, member of Blackstreet, singer, songwriter, and producer. And we have one of our very own, Scandalous, who is here. Now, we have a couple of callers on the line. I want to go ahead and get to those calls. May I have your name and where you're calling from, please?
Yes, Derek from Virginia Beach.
Okay, Derek, what is your question?
Well, I just have more of a comment. I believe modern producers are losing a lot of the emotion in music because they're not going back and studying the masters.
David, what do you think about that?
I agree, and I think it's studying the masters and also being able to play instruments.
Right.
So it's not coming from the soul, it's coming from the keyboard.
That's right. A good point. Levi, you were talking about that actually before the break. Younger people sometimes not being able to play instruments. What are you thinking about
Absolutely.
that?
I've seen it, and it's bad because it's something about learning how to play an instrument, man. It teaches you calmness. It helps you out with your reasoning skills, and it just. I don't know if it's a weird kind of feeling, but it's like when you're playing an instrument, you're like you're kind of pulling out a certain part of your soul, and if you notice those old records, like if you listen to an old Stevie Wonder record like Love's in Need, if you sit and listen, and my daughters there listen, they said, Dad, I love this music. Why we don't? I said, because you guys don't understand. These songs was made with 4 or 5 guys in a room. Mm-hmm. Their souls were going into those instruments and that singing. You can't get that out of a machine. It can't come out of a machine. That's human, you know, and that's what's missing. These kids they're missing that. They're not getting that whole thing, and it'll actually enhance them, enhance what they're doing with the machine. You know, it's just the machines was really only to as a tool, supposed to be used as a tool to make what you do faster. You know, but people started depending on that as the sole thing, and I think it's taking the soul out of the music.
I like that. Not a substitute. Scandalous, jump on in.
Yeah, as far as playing an instrument, I'm a keyboardist myself, and it's nothing like being able to hear something that you had come out of your body through your fingers to the instrument that you are playing and hear it. You know, I think a lot of times they have this program called Fruity Loops, right? And I remember when
That's what it is, Fruity.
I remember when Fruity Loops. I'm only 29, but I started making my own beats when I was about 11 or 12. And when the internet hit around about 13, 14, we were able to download certain programs for to make beats on. Fruity Loops was one of the programs that were joked. Producers, we joked at. It was like, oh, you make your beats on Fruity Loops. Now, most of the stuff that you hear on the radio is made on Fruity Loops. And when we speak on Fruity Loops, we're thinking of not producers, we're thinking of beat makers, not composers, we're thinking of beat makers, people that just click a mouse, drag and drop. They're not playing anything. There's really no skill set.
That is amazing. We have another caller on the line. Caller, what is your name and where are you calling from, please? Hello, caller, you're on the line. You're live on the air. Okay, perhaps they're not there. Call back just in case. And again, they're calling at 757-823-9110. This is Hampton Roads Voices. We're celebrating black music. Scandalous, go ahead. So you're saying that this is what's going on now. In the past, it was different, but now it's...
Yes. So pretty much it went from, as Levi was saying, it went from playing an instrument. Now, guys that play, like a Prince, who's a multi-instrumentalist, someone that plays the guitar, the piano, the drums, the bass, and all of those things, those guys kind of look down upon the MPC era and the making the beats midied up to your computer, your keyboard midied up to your computer, and they look down on that. But that's far much better than you dragging and dropping some sounds and saying, oh, I'm a producer, because anybody can just pick up something in a computer. A kid can do that.
See,
go ahead, David.
That was a part of when I spoke earlier about them creating systems so that they, when I say they, those who don't, our cousins, so they thought they could be the creative forces. So they knew. So you lost your A&R people, who the artist and repertoire people, who could go and buy, who go and sign artists. They were replaced with non-black people, because then they could go and they could produce, and then they could do this and that, because it was all systematic. Again, absolutely. We are people of feel and emotion. Yep. Music is nothing but memories and emotion. Mm-hmm. And when you take that out of the mix, that's why you don't have music that lasts generations.
It's microwave.
You know, you're not right, microwave. You know, why people are still listening to stuff coming from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, and you create a whole format out of it for radio and music that comes out today. And I'm not one that says the music is not better than the other, because, like I said, when Quincy sat us down and when he was working on Back on the Block, and he was just breaking down the difference from hip hop to bebop, you know, every generation has their music. So I don't knock their music, but I do know that in terms of the substance and quality, in terms of endurance, and from where I used to sit in a record label, commercial and long term, and Levi, you know, publishing, music that's going to be around, you can make some money, that's not happening as much.
Nah.
And maybe we see that with the onset of independent artists. Now, Scandalous, I know that you're an independent artist.
Yes.
And also Fats and Novocaine, I want you to jump on in with that as well. So talk about the independent artist, Scandalous.
Well, the independent artists, and this is a conversation me and Levi have had many times, a lot of times we don't get our paperwork right. We don't get the business right. You
hear him right, Dave?
I remember after performing on 106 in Park, this was 2006, and I was in talks with a couple of labels in Manhattan, some major labels. And one of the first things they inquired on was SoundScan. They asked me, do you have any SoundScan? I'm like, what is SoundScan? He was like, have you ever sold any records at all, even in your area or your region? And I'm like, yeah, mixtapes out of my car and going around the mall. They're like, well, we can't track that. How do we know that our investment upon you is going to reciprocate some money back to us?
Right.
So what they did was they set me up with the distribution deal, and I ended up having my album in stores in FYE, and I toured up and down the East Coast, about 15 different FYEs, while promoting my album and selling my album in stores to see how it would do. And that was a test run. But a lot of artists don't understand the paperwork, and that you want to get your publishing. You want to make sure that you have an in-house producer. You don't want to just be bouncing around from producer to producer. Because for one, you want your sound solidified. And two, you don't want the money just spread all out everywhere and stuff gets jumbled up.
I like that you say that. Go ahead, David.
Can I just put one pin there? See, that's the difference between an A&R person who, and a record label or a record company that could if you had the goods and they felt it and the emotion, they used to be able to sign you. They didn't need all the numbers, and that's what killed the business. That's what killed the business. Because it became all about the numbers and not about the music.
Yes,
which is, like you said, Dave, system. They had to create a system. I mean, because you remember Barry Gordy kind of slipped it over him. You know what I mean? And then they said, oh, who's this guy making all this money? Hey, we got to get a system here, So they started putting, you remember when they had WABC? I remember that little. They played all different styles of music at one time on the radio, right? So you didn't have this R&B, this urban, this, that, blah, 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 blah. And artists can really make a living. But, of course, you got the video stuff that came in, which enhanced things, too. But they started getting everything and started categorizing it. And that's where the system came in. And, that's kind of how they controlling things. And now the Internet came and said,
We got a couple of callers on the line. Let me jump to our callers. Caller, what is your name and where are you calling from, please? Hello?
Hello?
What is your name and what city are you calling from?
Oh, my name is Mama Riffick.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I go by, and I'm calling from Newport News.
And Mama Riffick, what is your question or comment?
Well, I heard that you were saying that, like, nowadays, they're losing the soul in their music because they're making beats on the computer and they're not using instruments like they used to. And actually, my son's been making music since he was a kid. He's self-taught on the keyboard. He doesn't use it as much. He uses the computer, but he has a lot of soul in his music because it comes from his heart. So like there's exceptions to every rule.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Absolutely.
That's a Novocaine.
Levi, you know my son, so you know that that I agree that the music is not like it used to be because I'm old school and I like the old. I'll jam to the old school music before I jam to the new stuff that's on the radio. But like some people are still trying to make music with soul, even though the times are changing. Everything is changing.
No question.
The computer, the phone, we use everything. The phone has apps for this, that.
Right.
But
go ahead, Levi.
I mean, for real. I saw in the news this morning that they have an app to tell you what's wrong with your baby when the baby's crying.
Hey. Now, and they got a robot that can do almost what you can do.
Yeah.
You seen that? So I'm saying.
No, I haven't seen it. Japan, but I believe it.
Japan is not playing. Let me tell you something. Here in America, this race relation thing is is so much emphasis put on that we're kind of losing the race. When you go outside of here and you see what these people are doing, and you start saying, hold up, we got to rethink things. You know what I mean? And like I tell a lot of kids, there's big money in energy. Everybody like, what do you mean by that, man? You crazy, man. What you talking about, OG, the energy? I said, listen, there's money in keeping you crazy. You don't understand that, right? They said, what do you mean by that? I said, okay, if I build a box and I put you in that box and I cut the hole, who cut the hole? I did. So I'm going to lead you to come through that hole using every tool I got, music, athletics, whatever, books, whatever. Of course, the media. I'm going to use everything to get you to go that way. So I like to say to all the independent artists out there that use your platform right.
Absolutely.
Use your platform.
Absolutely, I agree.
So I'm not down in anybody that use drum machines or anything like that. I'm just saying you will be a better musician. You will be an incredible musician if you understand the instrument too, because they're all tools. The machine is a tool.
Okay, let's go back to the phones. We have another caller. What is your name and where are you calling from, please?
Yes, Christina.
Christina.
Yeah, I was calling first to just show love to the Rubber People. I've been knowing them for 18 years personally, but I know that they are independent artists that have had longevity. I can even recall back to the first time seeing their live performance and really being moved by that. But I want to allow them to speak to how their journey from being independent artists to actually having their own record label and bringing other people on and what motivated them to do that.
Okay, Fats and Novocaine, do you want to answer that, please?
All right. You said we're kind of in and out because we're sharing the speakerphone. You wanted us to speak to, say it again.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the end of the question.
Yeah, just to talk about your journey. This is Christina, by the way. Your journey from being independent artist to having your own record label and your motivation for doing that.
Right, the process there.
Exactly.
Our motivation for doing that is that we are independent artists, and we've been making music for a long time. In the area, we know a lot of musicians, and the music that they make is actually uncanny. It's beautiful. It's amazing. And I can't stop naming artists. It's not like it's one or two. It's like 50 people. And they've been doing it. Some of them have been doing it a really long time, and they just are frustrated because the industry just changed out of nowhere kind of on everybody. Not so much the bottom line of the industry, but the way that the quality of music really, really dropped. And we used to think that if you were talented, it kind of meant that, you had to know your business, but at least the industry wanted talent. So it really changed in the early 2000s, and it kind of never really swung back. So a lot of people just suffered a trauma as a result of it, and we were kind of a part of that group. As a bigger group called Junipers, we just really we suffered a blow. So instead of just whining about the fact that the industry is not controlled by people who look like us, we decided to kind of take a page from the original hip-hop blueprint, which was to do things for yourself since you don't have anything. And it's nothing to do but come up when you're that far down, So they didn't have anything in the Bronx, and everything was really destitute. Yep. And out of that, they made hip-hop. And it's kind of amazing, even though it's a lot of sampling and regurgitating and stuff. It was a repurposing of that old soul that kind of kept everybody alive enough. And now hip-hop is lucrative. Absolutely. But unfortunately, because it's lucrative, it's really messed up. And so rather than us just keep, being sad about it, we decided to try to do something and keep our creative control. And if it meant that we just have to struggle until we get wherever, at least we would have kept our dignity and our music intact. Because there really are a lot of good musicians out here, so we want to put them on showcase.
Yes, and I could just say, if I could
go ahead, David.
And I commend you. But music is coming back. The thing is, the outlets for it. Radio is such an important component because it does still reach the masses. And when radio gets it through its head, programmers, not stations like NSB, but other stations that the commercial stations get it through their heads, they'll get it. Because I'm working a project right now. I'm involved with a project, with Daniel Caesar and her. I mean, two credible artists, pure music. I remember when Avery Sunshine was getting started, and so there's music. The outlet, the grind is a little harder, but it's out there. People want it.
They do.
And I think stations like WNSB can be the kind of outlets where people can find that kind of music.
Oh, absolutely.
And you just have to find the ways to get there, and that's what we do. We try to navigate to show you how to get there because, again, it's out there. So
we have another caller on the line. Caller, what is your name and where are you calling from, please?
Greta calling from Virginia Beach.
Okay, Greta, what's your question or comment?
My comment is, I'm from the Motown area, and the music, like you guys been saying, that the music don't have. It's like you making a cake without the eggs and the sugar. And
wow! Hey, she broke it down. That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's a bland cake, boy.
So that kind of goes back to what you were saying, Levi, a little bit, the soul, and David, when you're talking about the soul and of that music. So, Greta, you're saying that sometimes it's not there?
It's not there. I'm thinking about when you go to concerts and stuff, when you see Stevie Wonder perform and the Temptations perform in their bands, you feel really good, and and all my kids can play instruments, and it got them through college and everything because it did a lot for them.
It's a skill. It's a skill.
Yeah.
And you need, listen, I'm going to say this, before I got with Blackstreet, I played in a band called IoT. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yes.
I played in a band called IoT, and I was a bass player. And we would tour Canada. We would go up there in Montreal, Quebec City, and stuff like that. We would do like 14 nights at a club. And I literally, sustained myself. I mean, I made a living doing that. From that skill, being able to play that bass, it was a skill. Now, I couldn't take a drum machine and say, hey, I'm going to go out here and tour with a drum machine like that because it's different. You know what I mean? Although some guys are doing it now, it's a little different where you had to, being a cover band, you can't quite take a machine and, some people are, but it's different. You know what I mean? So I 100%. What you're saying is 100.
I would also like to chime in on that. As far as the soul being missing out of it, it's the swing that us as people that we're used to. Kind of like going back to jazz and ragtime. It's that swing that we have. And for all of my producers out there, when you're making a beat and you have your keyboard MIDI to your computer, inside of the beat software, you have what they call quantize, okay, or quantization. When you're quantizing your beat, a lot of times that's making the beat really choppy, really, really choppy, more so like robotic. Now, instead of the computer doing that, when you're playing a keyboard or you're playing the drums or you're playing a guitar, there's a certain swing to it. Now, Pharrell is one of the greatest producers that is good at keeping a swing in his beat to where it doesn't sound like it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 is 1. Two. It has it has a swing to it, and that's why we don't feel it because everything is done inside of the computer.
Thanks a lot, Greta, for your call.
Well, I have one more comment, if I can make it.
Oh, very quickly, about 30 seconds.
Okay, very quickly. When they made Michael Jackson and a lot of them, they made We Are the World, and they made it in one night, and those people played instruments. That's what made that so good. And when they try to redo it, it didn't happen because they did have computers and stuff. So that's what I'm saying. When you get that beat, you got it.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you so much for your call.
Okay. Thank you.
Guys, bye. I wish we had so much more time to talk about have this conversation, but our time has run out. So let me just reintroduce and thank our guest, Mr. David Linton, Chairman, Living Legends Foundation's marketing consultant, music marketing consultant. He's formerly with Arista Records and VP of Black Music Promotions and the Senior VP formerly of Capitol Records. David, thank you so much for having been with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Okay, and then we had Levi Little, member of Blackstreet, singer, songwriter, and producer. Levi, thank you.
Thank you.
And we had Fats Kirkman with his wife Novocaine, both artist executives for Soul Trust Records. Thank you, you two.
Thank you.
And, of course, we had our own Scandalous here in the studio. And, of course, it's been a wonderful conversation because you've been a part of it. Thank you, Scandalous.
No problem.
Okay, great. So let me quickly let you give your contact information. Levi, where can they find you?
Okay, I want to say this to all the independent artists out there. Get a passport. And I'm doing a movie right now called The Kings of Freestyle. I'm giving away $5,000. Go to my website. It's called TPI Records 2. TPIRecords2.com.
TPIRecords.com.
TPI Records 2. The number 2.com. Yeah, you can get all the info.
Great. David, how can they find you? Any quick contact information?
Quick contact information, you can go, my email is direct. Linton, Linton, the number 4, Shure, SURE, @gmail.com. Linton for sure.
Very good. That's in Novocaine. How can they find you?
y'all can just check us out at soultrustrecords.com.
Okay. And Scandalous, when are you on the air here at Hot 91?
Yeah, I was about to say, they can find me right here in the studio, Mondays and Tuesdays, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., and starting tomorrow, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Saturdays. And also, I like to make mention of something we have coming up here, myself along with Miss Edith Thorpe, the general manager of the radio station. We have what you call Message in the Music, and we'll be premiering that very soon. That's going to be for independent artists.
Very good. And I'm Vinnie Adams, your host of Hampton Roads Voices. It really has been a great conversation. Don't forget, you can find me at bkadams@nsu.edu. Hampton Roads Voices, where people speak life into their communities on Hot 91. The views and opinions expressed on this program are not those of Norfolk State University or WNSB FM. Thank you for listening.